So, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the e-learning academy of Swami Vivekananda group of institutes. Today, we are going to discuss about teamwork, but with the example of the age-old story of the hare and the tortoise. If you can remember, what was the story? That once upon a time, a tortoise and a hare had an argument about who was faster. Of course, the hare was talking that I am the fastest runner, and the tortoise was talking about that's not true. The fastest runner is me. Then they have gone for a race. So, okay, let's have a race. And the tortoise also agreed. So they have gone for a race. And what the hare was thinking, poor guy, even if I take a nap, he could not catch up with me. So you know the result, right? We know this story from our childhood that the hare took the nap and the tortoise did not stop and ultimately won the race. So what was the moral of the story? We know from our childhood that the moral of the story is slow and steady wins the race. So this is the version of the story that we have all grown up with, right? But the story continues. So now the hare was very much disappointed at losing the race, and he did some soul searching. He realized that he would lose the race only because he had been overconfident, careless, and lax. If he had not taken things for granted, there is no way the tortoise could have beaten him. So he did his soul searching and again met the tortoise and asking him from another race. So the tortoise agreed. Now the next race, definitely the hare did not took any nap and ultimately won the race. So what is the moral of the story? So moral of the story is fast and consistent will always beat the slow and the steady. If you have two people in your organization, one is slow, methodical and reliable, and the other is fast and chill, reliable at what he does, the last and reliable chap will consistently climb in the organizational ladder faster than the slow, methodical chap. But the story actually continues. Now, the tortoise did some thinking this time and realized that there is no way he can beat the hare in the race the way it was currently formatted. So again, he approached the hare and asked for another race, but in a different route. They started off in keeping with his self-made commitment to be consistently fast. The hare took off and ran at the top speed until he came to a broad river. The finishing line was a couple of kilometers on the other side of the river. The hare sat there wondering what to do. In the meantime, the tortoise trundled along, got into the river, swam to the opposite bank, continued walking, and finished the race. So, what is the moral of the story? First, identify your core competency, then change the playing field to suit your core competency. If you just can remember the examples that when Indian cricket team used to go to Australia, usually they prepare a fast pitch, and when Australian cricket team come to India, we generally prepare a spinning pitch in order to suit our competency. Australia's major competency, core competency is fast bowling, and India's core competency is spin bowling. Though the situation currently is being changing, and the India is also having some good fast bowler, and the Australia is also having their good spin bowler. So the situation is changing, but we need to understand our core competencies and change our playing field accordingly. So in an organization, if you are a good speaker, make sure you create opportunities to give presentation that enable the senior management to notice you. So if your strength is analysis, make sure you do some sort of research and make a report and send it upstairs. Working to your strength will not only get you noticed, but will also create opportunities for growth and advancement. But do you know one thing? The story still has not ended. Now, hare and the tortoise by this time had become pretty good friends, and they did some thinking together. Both realized that the last race could have been run much better. So they have decided to do the last race again, but to run as a team this time. So here he's telling, hi buddy, how about doing our last race again? And the tortoise is saying, great, I think we could do it much better if we two help each other. So they started off, and this time the hare carried the tortoise till the riverbank. There the tortoise took over and swam across with the hare on his back. On the opposite bank, the hare again carried the tortoise, and they reached the finishing line together. They both felt a greater sense of satisfaction than they would felt earlier. So what is the moral of the story? It is good to be individually brilliant and to have strong core competencies, but unless you are able to work in a team and harness each other's core competencies, you will always perform below par, because there will always be situation at which you will do poorly and someone else does well. Teamwork is mainly about situational leadership, letting the person with the relevant core competency for a situation to take leadership. There are more lessons to be learned from this story. Note that neither the hare nor the tortoise gave up after failure. The hare decided to work harder and put in more effort after his failure. The tortoise changed his strategy because he was already working as hard as he could. In life, when faced with failure, sometimes it is appropriate to work harder and put in more effort. Sometimes it is appropriate to change the strategy and try something different. And sometimes it is appropriate to do both. The hare and the tortoise also learned another very, very vital lesson. When we stop competing against a rival and instead start competing against the situation, we perform far better. Take an example. When Roberto Goizueta took over as the CEO of Coca-Cola in 1980s, he was faced with intense competition from Pepsi that was eating into Coke's growth. His executives were Pepsi focused and the intent on increasing market share by 0.1% at a time. Roberto decided to stop competing against Pepsi, instead compete against the situation of 0.1% growth. He asked his executives what was the average fluid intake of an American per day. The answer was 14 ounces. What was Coke's share of that? 2 ounces. Roberto said Coke need a larger share of that market. The competition was not Pepsi. It was the water, tea, coffee, milk, and fruit juices that went into the remaining 12 ounces. The public should reach for a Coke whenever they felt like drinking something. To this end, Coke put a vending machine at every street corner. Sales to quantum jump, and Pepsi has never quite got up since. To sum up the story of the hare and the tortoise, we can understand never give up when faced with failure. Fast and consistent will always beat slow and steady. Work to your core competencies. Compete against the situation, not against a rival. Pooling resources and working as a team will always beat individual performers. So let's go and build some stronger team. So that's all for today. We will definitely come back with some newer content at our e-learning academy of Swami Vivekananda Group of Institutes.